Hello, false shock, and welcome to episode 25, quarter of a century of the Short Grass, your Kildare Nationalist sports podcast. I'm Pat Costello, and I'm joined this week by Ger, Tommy, and Seamus, and we're all kisses out in our podcast tops, courtesy of Richie Whelan Menswear, and all looking resplendent. And Ger, you were on the ball this week. We had to get the tea changed. Scintillating Kildare, sizzle the saffrons, and you had mighty Murrish. You were certainly on the ball this week. But Seamus, a great weekend, a great match, and a great performance by the Kildare hurlers against Antrim last weekend, Seamus.
Yeah, a really good start, Pat. And I suppose coming off the back of that defeat in Dublin just a week earlier, there had to be a certain amount of trepidation and maybe nerves within that Kildare camp, because I suppose before the league started, Brian Dowell and his management team probably would have looked at 3 games in the line of Antrim, Carlow and Down if they were to hold on to that Division 1B status, and but they certainly stepped up to the mark on Sunday afternoon and left Antrim in no uncertain terms that the quality of the hurling that was in Kildare last Sunday, the performance overall for the full 70 minutes. I think during commentary, myself and Jared probably spoke about the fitness levels that Kildare produced on the afternoon, and their hurling on ground that wasn't really conducive to good hurling. They were so slick, so fast. There were some handling errors, I suppose, at different and various parts of the game, but overall, really, really good performance. And 321 is a fair scoreline to put on the board over those 70 minutes.
Yeah, and it, in fairness, for the first 30 minutes or so, Ger, it was nip and tuck, point here, point there. But I suppose the 5 minutes or so before halftime, Kildare took control and went in on the up at halftime.
Yeah, that's right, Pat. Yeah, forgive my floating head here on the screen here. My electricity has gone just before recording of all times to go. So forgive that effect. It's certainly not intended. But yeah, look, Antrim probably did start to better. They definitely, the first quarter were shading it, I thought. But gradually, as the half wore on, Kildare just wore Antrim down just with their hard work and determination. And there were plenty of errors in Kildare's first half performance. Like, as I said on KFM at the time, not every pass went to hand and the first touch wasn't always assured. But the one thing that Kildare did better than Antrim was show a hunger and desire to fight for every single possession. And that just eventually wore Antrim down. And to go in, I think it was a 4-point lead late in the half, eventually a 3-point halftime lead. That was a fair reflection of the first half, and I think Brian Dowling would have been the happier of the two managers, no doubt about that, going in at halftime. We probably expected something of a response from Antrim then coming into the second half, but the fact that there wasn't, I think you have to say it's down solely to Kildare. And the first 15 minutes of the second half were just absolutely outstanding, and in my time of watching Kildare hurling, which probably dates back 20 odd years, it was probably the best spell of hurling that I've ever seen from a Kildare team. And our good friend and colleague Richard Commons reckons he's watching Kildare hurling for 50 years, and he reckoned it was the best the performance that he's seen from a Kildare team. So that's kind of high praise. The quality of the 3 goals were scored during that time just broke the spirit of Antrim, and Antrim were a beaten side a long way from the end of the game. But you have to say that a lot of the commentary at a national level since that game has been about the downfall of Antrim. Antrim were within 30 seconds of beating a very good Wexford team in Wexford Park. Was it 3 weeks ago? Right. They're a good, strong team. Okay, they mightn't be at a full strength. They're missing a couple of players maybe, but they are very experienced at this level, much more so than Kildare. But by the end, they were just battered and worn down and just played off the pitch by a more hungrier, fitter, more intense, more organised, more determined Kildare side. And it was just a thrill to be there. And we're lucky, I suppose, the last couple of weeks we've been bouncing out of Cedar St. Conleth's Park following the footballers' win against Offaly and now the hurlers against Antrim. Not to get too carried away at this stage of the year, but yeah, no, it's just a fantastic performance all round.
Yeah, indeed. And obviously the goals would have delighted the people on the terrace, Tommy.
They surely did. It was, they were just fantastic. I was telling a couple of people during the week, the gas in the terrace. There was a group of us just underneath the PG Carter commentary box, and it was just like gasps and hands on heads. And I looked up at the PG Carter commentary box, and their arms were flailing. This was for both goals, or the first two. Even when the third one, the quality of the play leading up to that direct play, getting it in, and Murrish, your man nearly had a foot on, and just to get out in front and have, he was so good in the first half as well, getting out in front of his man and getting that ball quickly into his hand. I said before, that seems to be a little difference between the top and the next level, is that getting that ball into the hand quick, that sharp hurling. And Kildare were all about that last Sunday. I thought Ryan Bourne as well absolutely cleaned up in the second half. He was an absolute monster in the second half. Antrim there's a reason Antrim as well they were reduced to pot shots from out the field. They couldn't get near that full back line. Everything that went in the second half was just mopped up. Paddy McKenna just had his only job was really to puck out the ball. He had to catch a couple. There was just such a intense, raw performance from that full back. They were just animalistic. Like, they just gave them nothing. It was just such a wonderful performance to watch, Pat. It was great. Delighted to be there.
And if we're nitpicking, Seamus, a little bit of a dip coming towards the end of the game. Another team, or Antrim, maybe in their heyday, might have caught you, because I think it was 10 points at one stage. You can be caught like that coming towards the end of a game in hurling. Yeah,
of course, it's always dangerous, because 2 quick goals and you're right back into a game, and maybe that's something that Brian Dowling will have looked at. But there wouldn't have been a whole lot past two on a negative side for them to take out of it. I mean, 3 wides over the space of the 70 minutes. I think there was 15 or 16 against Dublin the previous week. And to go back to Tommy's thing about defensively, 2 goals in the opening 14 minutes in Dublin. We never looked like conceding one Sunday. So, that speaks volumes for that defensive line. And Paddy McKenna had a quite enough game. But they're all things, I suppose, you'll pick up and you'll work on as you go through the season. But I think that another positive was to see Conan Bourne starting on Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon. When that team was announced on Friday, there was a strength about it that that's very good. And look at it, with a few more lads on the way back, it can only bode well for the rest of the league campaign, and you'll be looking forward to clearing in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, just to mention the Bournes, great to see them back. Simon Lacey as well. But Ger, one man who caught my eye, and he really has taken his opportunity. He came on and scored the winning point against Antrim in the Walsh Shield. That's Liam O'Reilly. He had an outstanding game on Sunday, I thought.
Yeah, and he's somebody that kind of Seamus has spent a lot of time talking about in the early part of this year. I think Seamus gave him the man of the match there the previous week against Dublin in Parnell Park, and he obviously got that winning score against Antrim as well. And that's what Kildare need. They definitely need these kind of younger players coming in, and Liam has probably been around the panel for a couple of years and just got a little bit of a taster, being dipped in and out here and there. But now, he's nailed down in that back line there, and it's great to see, because, young players coming through like that. And it was great to see like Tom Power get a run out there, albeit right at the end. Only got a couple of minutes on, but that'll help him and just give him a little bit of encouragement as well. And, we need these players. James Dolan, another one that came in, he took his goal superbly well. That was a absolutely cracking finish. It was probably overshadowed by Murray's Curtin in the end, but I mean, that goal was superbly taken, and following on not too long ago from his goal down at Kilkenny as well. So, we need these young players coming through, as much as we have these established players who are now, playing to a very, very high level, the likes of Ryan Bourne, and then, these players, Simon Lacey, they're top class players. But these young players have to step up to the mark as well, and Liam certainly is doing that.
Tommy, when we saw the match against Dublin in the championship last year, we talked about the gulf in physique. Certainly a huge amount of work since they've got on, because that Kildare team is really, really physically strong now, and obviously Mick Gillick has put them through their paces, and they're really bulked up. But not only that, but they're very fit,
extremely fit. And I think we saw that a lot last year as well. Like, the bulk thing was obviously something that always comes. Like, even you take the footballers now, there are lots of young lads there now that are probably ahead of schedule as regards their conditioning. This goes to the hurlers as well. Like, it does take that year and a half, kind of 2 years, to get lads into that kind of condition. But the fitness wise, remember that look at the Joe McDonagh Cup final last year. They were just running all over Laois at the end of it. So that is brilliant to see, and it's something that they know they're going to need it. There's these early games in the league. We know how important they are, but in another couple of months, like near the end of the league, and then that championship comes around. I mean, every game is going to be so tough, so difficult, and so physical. But I think they're ready for it. They seem to be well prepped for what's ahead of them, and that's all part of the plan. So let's see how they get on. But the weekend again, it was just such a vital win, Pat, and they really, really pushed on like that to get that win. Before obviously that Clare match, but before Carlo's going to be huge. Seamus's match up in Ballycran. These are big games. So it's great. It's great as well, Pat, to hear the buzz about them, because it was great last year. As the months went on, and Joe McDonough, and then people are going to Crow Park and all this, and then there was a decent crowd there at the weekend, but it probably could have been better again.
Yeah.
And you kind of want people to get that buzz about Kildare, because there is it's such a long season, it's such a tough season. And everybody was talking about Antrim during the week. That was the main conversation on all the media about the downfall of Antrim. Well, there's a reason Antrim are gone out to the Joe McDonough and Kildare are gone up to the Leinster Senior Championships, because Kildare have been better. And I know there's only that small little turnaround, but there was nobody in the media, in the national media, putting respect to Kildare's names, that in ranking terms, Kildare probably are ranked ahead of Antrim. I know there's the historical, what Antrim have been in these divisions, they've been in Leinster Senior Hurling Championships, but a little bit more respect on Kildare's name, I think, after last weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was good to see Murish Curtin getting a slot on the team of the week, the GAA team of the week. And meant to mention, Seamus, I have to say the background there of the new Suncroft pitch looks very well for you.
Yeah, it didn't take the water as bad, Pat, as other places.
But Seamus,
Pat, sorry, Pat, go ahead.
No, I was going to say everybody has to look forward to the next match, and that's against recent All-Ireland champions in Clare, and that's sure to be one that everybody will look forward to. We talk a bit more about that next week, but it's one that everybody will look forward to, and a big crowd will be there.
Yeah, absolutely. You get a feeling sort of from within the Kildare camp that they're looking forward to pitting themselves against Clare, because Dublin the first day out wasn't what it should have been, and they know they didn't hurl to what their capabilities were, and 15 or 16 wides, as I said earlier, was testament to that. But in saying that, Clare coming to Newbridge, as Brian Dowland said, they want to be playing in Cedar St. Conleth's Park. They want to be making it difficult for teams. And I know Clare got a give down a massive hammering last weekend. I can't see that happening with Kildare. I just think they're on that high at the moment. There's a savage amount of confidence there, and so one to look forward to. But something I was going to say to you, Pat, just before you came across me, was that to wish Jack Travers the best, because he probably did pick up a serious knee injury last weekend, and I know he was having
he was flying
scan at some stage this week. Go ahead, sorry, Tommy.
I'm just saying he was flying, James. Wasn't he?
Absolutely.
He was playing brilliant.
So
hopefully it's not serious.
Out there, he was getting a lift home, so hopefully it's not too serious. But Kildare had a challenge match on Tuesday night against Laois, which was an opportunity, I think, to get a few of those injured lads back on the playing field, and I didn't get any reports on that, but the likes of David Coulter, Richie Hogan, a few more of those lads are on the way back as well. So as we said earlier, the squad's getting stronger, the positions are going to be up for grabs, so it's good to hear.
A great weekend it was too for Brian Dowling, because his college team, himself and Richie Root, managed Kieran's College to have a massive victory in the Leinster, the Courtney Gould, the school's final. So, and then he goes on and has a great win against for Kildare against Antrim, being touted now, Ger, as a possibility of a Kilkenny manager maybe, but Kildare don't want to lose him.
No, absolutely not. And look, there was, I suppose, David Herity at one stage was kind of mentioned as a possible future Kilkenny manager when he was with Kildare as well. And that sort of talk just goes to show the level of a job that Brian Dowling is doing. I'm sure he won't be distracted about that. I'm sure, whatever happens at the end of the season might be what happen down the road. But I think for the moment, Brian Dowling will be just absolutely fully focused on doing a good job for Kildare. And the fact that people maybe are talking of those possibilities just shows what a good job he is doing.
Absolutely, yeah. 321 to 20 points. So the first 2 points on the National League table, Division 1B for Kildare, and congratulations to Brian and all the team. And long may they continue to win, and looking forward to the Kildare game, which is on Saturday week. A big game now for the Kildare footballers this Saturday night, weather permitting and pitch permitting and all of that. It's the meeting of Derry, and the last time Derry were down here, lads, it was a bit of I suppose a whitewash for Kildare, a difficult day. But as you pointed, or Richard pointed out in the Kildare Nationalist this week, I suppose fortunes have changed, Ger, since then. Derry had a bit of a bad 2025, starting to improve in 2026, but Kildare have been on the up since 2025.
Yeah. Like thinking back to that time, like it was two teams going in very, very different directions. Like when I saw Derry that day, given what had gone on the kind of the previous year as well, like I thought that they were possibly on the way to being an All-Ireland winner really within the next couple of years, and that kind of didn't really happen. The wheels fell off a little bit on them, and they have regarded themselves a little bit in the early part of this year, and obviously had their first win in a long time there in the last round. But Kildare will be an unrecognisable team that'll take to the field on Saturday night. I think it was only two players who started that game against Derry who so far featured for Kildare this season. So monumental overturn of players. There's a huge influx of youth and exuberance into this Kildare team, and they go into this game with huge confidence as well, with the height of respect obviously for Derry and acknowledging what issues they could be, and some of the top class players that they have, like McGuigan and Glass and people like this. They're players that Kildare will have to be obviously hugely wary of. But at the same time, Derry will be looking at the Kildare side and wondering, how are they going to stop certain players? Brian McLaughlin, Alex Byrne, like these players are absolutely in outstanding form. Youngsters then like Lokeman and Cully have really come in and taken their opportunity too. Callum Bolton then, pushing forward, whether he's in midfield or in the half forward line. Like these are players who are playing really well for Kildare. And of course, then it's a possibility, I suppose, of a return of some of the injured players. It's going to be very interesting to see what sort of a difference that 2-week break since the last game has done to the Kildare squad. Can Brian Flanagan introduce some of these players that have been missing in the early stages of the season, or do they earn their spot? I suppose that would be the big thing. Even if they are back fit and available, would they dislodge any of the players who played against Offaly? You'd have to say on the basis of that performance against Offaly that any player who was left out would feel very hard done by.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a dilemma for Brian Flanagan, Tommy. Does he stick with the momentum and the players who have done well in the jersey since the first match against Wexford, wasn't it, on the first weekend of January, and have performed very well ever since? Or does he tinker, in inverted commas, with it at this stage? What would your thoughts be?
Yeah, well, I suppose it comes down to what players are available and all that. But again, like 2 weeks is a long time, Pat. There's challenge matches going on. There's in-house games. There could be lads stepping up there that we don't see. I always don't like looking at, you look at the last couple of games and obviously who's performed well. That's obviously a marker that people will use. But these 2 weeks, especially this early in the season, some lads are coming back. Other lads are getting back to fitness. There could be somebody really sharpening up in training. So there's little things like that we don't see. So, when the team is picked or the squad is picked, there's lads coming in and out, we're going to see a lot of that over the next few weeks. So, we all have our own opinions on it. I mean, we were so happy with that performance against Offaly. Like there were parts in that game as well, that Brian wouldn't have been happy with either. They were very loose, let Offaly back into it at times. That there was that period in the second half where better teams would have really punished us, and Offaly did punish us. But again, for this Kildare team, they showed character again, which is something that I think going into games like this, Kildare fans need to really have in the back of their mind that this team does have a lot of character. Like to come back, like to get back against Tyrone when we all thought the match was done and dusted. Nobody can say different than that. Everybody watching the game, bar maybe the guys on the sideline and the lads at the pitch, obviously, we all thought the game was gone. Tyrone got the goal and pushed ahead. Even against Offaly, it was getting hairy when Offaly got back to within a few points. The one thing I was thinking in the back of my head was just at least lots of time left. There's time. Let's see what they're made of. And they did stand up. So there's that thing as well. And even if things are getting a little bit, they're getting a little bit tough on Saturday night, I'd have confidence these lads would look to turn it around.
But they call them the finishers. The bench, Seamus, has been a great asset to Kildare this year, and the hurlers indeed as well. I suppose Kildare are playing the matches they've played so far. A lot of direct football, but a lot of fast football as well.
Yeah, it seems to be a part of the game that Brian Flanagan and Davy Burke and the management team have brought, that it's a quick, direct ball into the forward line and people working off it. And there's the backup coming from defence is, it's there as well. So, I did have me reservations, I suppose, earlier on about, so many guys coming out of that defensive unit that was blocking up maybe the area for getting shots away in the forwards. But in saying that, 317 or whatever it was against Offaly is fair shooting. But it's a big game at the weekend. You can't be taking Derry anyway lightly. They're back on having had a good win over Tyrone the last day. There is the question: do you stick or twist or whatever it might be? But listening to somebody today that I was speaking to just said to me that there was rumours that there was a few of Kildare, guys who would have been first teamers last year are chomping at the bit, and as Tommy said, like the last 2 weeks have probably shown up a lot of that. But it's a massive game. In Brian Flanagan's favour maybe is to go with the proven that what you've had since the start of the season, because I think if Kildare can get a win on Saturday evening, I think myself and Ger spoke about that on Sunday at some stage. We were saying, earlier on the year, maybe we were looking at Kildare as a relegation candidate. But if you get a win at the weekend, you're on 5 points. That's out of your mind. You're looking the other direction. And, if that type of player coming in to see out the end of the league or to be part of the bench, as you said, Pat, the bench has been outstanding so far. And if they can finish it off on Saturday evening with a strong bench, and it's going to be an interesting team that's now going to be named, I think, at 6:30 instead of 7:15. So we're 3/4 of an hour ahead of ourselves. But massive game.
Absolutely. And it seems, though, Jared, that no matter what team that Brian Flanagan will put out, the style won't vary too much.
No, that was what I really enjoyed over the Offaly game. I mean, obviously, any game you win, especially at home in front of a big crowd like that, is enjoyable. But it was the way that Kildare played, and summed up by that early goal that Alex Byrne scored. 2 kicks of the ball, Kildare had gone the full length of the field, and Alex Byrne had the ball on the back of the net. Like, it was an outstanding kick up by Cian Burke. And as soon as Brian McLaughlin got the ball, his first thought was to play the ball inside into Alex Byrne. And I think Alex Byrne has been a really important player for Kildare, and maybe overlooked. I think we nearly take it for granted at this stage because he's just so good. And sometimes we focus on some of the negatives of his game, but like he's been so good in that kind of target man, full forward role in the last couple of games. And even I was looking back at the Brian McLaughlin's equalising score in Tyrone, and he was the link man in the attack there with the layoff to McLaughlin as well. So he's been absolutely key, and it gives Kildare such an option there to play that ball in long. And Alex will make a fight for a ball there, whether it's a 7-30, 60-40. He'll give it absolutely everything and make sure that if it's won cleanly back there with a fullback, he'll have done very well with Alex putting the pressure on. But we saw that tactic as well. I wonder how long it'll be before the guys in the national media cop on about this tactic that Kildare employed as well. That will it become something that's a more of a talking point in terms of loading up the edge of the square, 5-6 players in on the edge of the square, but rather than doing that to play a long ball in, it's kind of just to release the speedsters out the field there and get them in isolation situations against defenders, 1v1 situations, and getting the likes of Cully or Lokeman, these pacey players running at a corner back, which is the last thing that a defender wants to see. And then, of course, if they overload, if they bring a defender out and make it kind of 2 defenders up against one of those fast players on the ball, then there is that option to lob it into the square. And for Kildare, some huge figures likes of Feely, Bolton, Gibbons that are on the edge of the square. They're a huge threat there. So it's a nice option to have, a nice way to Kildare utilise. And I remember Derry that time when they came to St. Connor's Park a couple of years ago and absolutely hammered Kildare that day. They played a really kind of innovative style as well. They had their forwards pushed right up into the corners, stretched the pitch the full length of the pitch, and it was just a real innovative way of using the pitch and kind of a tactic that they had. This is Kildare's version of it, and I just wonder how often we see it on Saturday evening, because I suppose as time goes on, teams will obviously be more aware of it, and it won't be a surprise tactic that maybe it was against Offaly, and they'll obviously have something to counteract it. But it'll be interesting to see if Kildare can utilise that more and even develop it further.
I know it's early days still yet, Tommy, but Kildare seem to be playing without fear, and they seem to be enjoying their football, which is something that hadn't been happening for a few years there. And that was, I suppose, permeating its way onto the terraces and the stands as well. But the response the last time, and certainly from the stands and from the terrace, that was a massive. And what was it, 5,200? I know there was quite a few from Offaly there as well, but that was a great turnout, and I expect a bigger crowd on Saturday night at 6:30.
Yeah, it's always easy to be happy when you're doing well. In fairness, like last year, we ran through the Tailteann Cup, won it, got promotion out of league, but lost the league final, lost to Offaly, lost to Leinster in the semi-final, and then we had our ups and downs last year. Those Tailteann Cup games, those Tailteann Cup knockout games, none of those were easy. I know we had a couple of easy group games, but again, that once they won the Tailteann Cup, the relief in everybody in Kildare, it was just huge, and that carried on a little bit. Now, in Connacht's Park, there was a huge sense of deflation after that Westmeath game. So we're very fickle. That's, it's going to be great, and you want to see as many people there as possible. Which I would have thought there was more than 5,200 there. It just seemed like it was strong. It was. I mean, geez, the crowd was absolutely fantastic. I'd say there probably was. I think you can always kind of put these numbers up a little bit. I think there will be a very big crowd there again on Saturday night. So the more we talk about this team, the more we try to create the buzz. I think that's up to responsibilities on everybody to do that. And the kind of people need to understand that the roar that comes from that stand, when if you float over a point with 15, 20 minutes to go in a tight game, and it's into Kilcullen end, and the crowd can see it as soon as it leaves your boot that it's going over, and you hear the roar echoing around the stand, and you feel the whole place shaking. That's huge for the players on the field. They feel that, and that's the value of home games like that, because you have a huge crowd behind you, and it can swing like that. That's why I will say to Clare people, just try turn up Saturday, but really, really get behind the lads right from the start. Make it uncomfortable for Derry.
Yeah, and apart from that blip against Westmeath in the O'Byrne Cup final, Connacht's Park has been, I suppose, a fortress for Kildare over the last 12 months, possibly now at this stage, Seamus, and the players seem to enjoy playing there.
Yeah, I suppose no more so than even. I'm just going back out a stage there when Brian Dowling alluded to it last weekend about that score, that the goals that Kildare got, that the importance of the 16th man of the stand and the crowd getting behind it, and it's been no different for the footballers. But apart from that Westmeath defeat, which was heartbreaking, I suppose, for the want of a better word, but Kildare have brushed that aside and they've continued on, and that's, we said, it's that fortress of Cedar St. Conleth's Park, and I don't think this is going to be a massive game. I think this will be the biggest game of the year so far, taking on Derry, and our record against them in Newbridge in the past hasn't been wonderful, so I think we have to be cautious, for the want of a better word. But I think that Kildare, if they can play to their ability and moving that ball and get them on the back foot. I mean, look at what we did in Oma. Tyrone beat them or lost by 3 points to them. So you'd be feeling that there's not a whole lot between them. But look at it. It's a big game, Pat, and hopefully Kildare can get over the line.
Well, Tommy has thrown up the Division 2 league table there. Cork on top with 4 points from 2 games. Meath also there as well, just on second place on points difference. Kildare in third place on 3 points. Louth, Derry, Tyrone, Cavan and Offaly. Down at the bottom, Cavan and Offaly, no points at all. Louth and Derry on 2 points each. Quick run around for the three of you lads. Ger, Kildare, win, lose, draw.
No, I'd stay on the bandwagon of good feeling at the moment. I think Kildare can win this game. We heard David Hyland speaking. He was very optimistic and very confident even that Kildare could have the advantage in the matchups all over the field, and it could be a game that suits Kildare. And I think the way the Kildare are playing at the moment with that home crowd, it could be a very happy Valentine's Day for all the Kildare supporters leaving Cedar St. Conleth's Park on Saturday evening.
Tommy, Valentine's Day on the terraces.
Listen, I think there's going to be a lot going on in the game. I think the main thing for me quickly would be if Kildare can get as much width into this game as possible, block down that central avenue for Glass and Rogers. They absolutely just go to town on teams that open up through the middle. Can see if you see Conor Glass bearing down on goals, he's going to drop the ball onto the front of his foot, he's going to hit it either side of him. He cannot give them that route to the middle. Once Kildare play it wide, I think if they can push very wide and play the game they want to, because that's how Kildare play football. Nowadays they're kicking it quickly up the field. They're using the width of the field. So I think Kildare can do this. And even if there'll be a period on Saturday where Derry will look like they're in control, and I'm fully convinced this Kildare team will take it out by 2.
Seamus,
Pat. I'm on the same boat as the lads. I think we showed up in Oma that width and pace caused Tyrone plenty of problems, and I think that'll be a major issue again come Saturday evening. We can open them up and hit them at speed and hit them at pace. And when you look at Offaly entertained Cork this weekend, the Cavan match I think is Tyrone. Would it be right? I'm not 100% sure on that one. So they're 2 games that 2 points. The Kildare lads will be thinking we could be 5 points clear of the bottom, and I think so when you add it all up, I'd be going for a Kildare win.
Absolutely. And lads, just two quick things before we finish. Are we worried about the pitch? Look, difficult conditions there last week. A lot of rain since then. A lot of rain on Wednesday and Thursday around the place as well. Although it's supposed to be dry over the weekend with frost, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
There's drainage on it, Pat, though, isn't there?
There is, yeah. But still, it seemed to be cutting up a fair bit for the hurlers, and keeping their feet was a difficulty last week. Particularly the stand side, obviously.
Yeah, well, 100%. It's been cutting up. It has been cutting up, for a year, and that's what happens with new pitches. They need time to breathe, and because there's so many matches going on, it never really got that opportunity. The stand side doesn't help, and it was very obvious last week because the sun was shining. That stand side does not get sun. Yep. It just doesn't get the right sun at the right time. You could see the shadow over the exact area that's raw as the sun moves around. So what can they do? They can't. They can't move the stand. They can't move the sun.
That could be the worry this weekend more than the rain, because there's supposed to be heavy frost over Friday night, isn't there? Kind of very cold conditions. So, I mean, it could be frozen solid come Monday morning, come Saturday morning. So by the time that, hopefully defrost then by Saturday evening, there'll be a lot of water on it by then. But yeah, it doesn't get any sun, as Tommy is saying there, underneath that stand, and it's very obvious where the problem is with the pitch. I think 3/4 of it is perfectly fine, but in between the 245s, kind of 5 meters in, 10 meters in from the sideline there's definitely an issue that it's hard to see how it can be resolved without a proper rest that the pitch just isn't going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And the final thing, lads, the official squads have been announced for the hurlers and the footballers. Any surprises? I mean, we've practically seen all of the players, both hurling and football, over the last couple of weeks. Any surprises there, Tommy?
Well, I don't know. Like, whether surprises, everybody has their opinion.
In or out.
Everybody has their opinions. Like, it's a huge surprise seeing Aaron O'Neill coming in. We haven't seen him. Obviously, he was out with injury. I think the last time we saw him was the Mayo game in Croke Park. So that was a bit of an unusual one. We did hear the murmurings that he was knocking around the squad. He's a wonderful footballer. Sorry, the last time we saw him in goals for Kildare was against me. Obviously, we saw him outfield. We saw him outfield for Kildare as well. Since then, I think when he played in Fermanagh out the field in a couple of games. But a wonderful footballer. But obviously that means somebody had to make way, and that's Didier Cordanier, who's been heavily involved with the Kildare squad for the last year. Is that harsh or not? I don't think Didier has ever done too much wrong in Kildare goals. He has that tool of a huge boot, which we saw that boot kicking 13 points against Rathangan, I think it was this year, or last year in the championship. So that is a bit of a strange one. But again, Flanagan and Damien and Davey and the lads are all watching these guys week in, week out. So they make their opinions, they make the tough decisions. Luke Hillian is another one who's made way, who's been part of the squad for the last couple of years. Probably quite tough on him as well. Young enough man as well. He has plenty of time to come back, as is Didier. Dara Crowley probably maybe thought he did enough in the pre-season as well.
Yeah, I would have thought. Yeah.
So there are a couple in there, but you can only pick so many. And in fairness, lads, when you look at that graphic in front of you, probably aren't too many you would leave out. Because you have to be pretty stacked in every position. That's very important as well. We can't just load up on all the forwards we want. We can't have 4 goalkeepers, that kind of thing. So Owen Sheehan coming in was again, like we haven't seen Owen for a few years, probably not since the under-20s. Obviously we see him in both codes.
He had a good championship.
He did have a good championship. Absolutely, right. He's probably there on merit. He's a super goalkeeper, and again, another lad that has a big boot on him as well. You see that for Johnstone Bridge, wonderful hurler as well with Broadford. So he's obviously going to add something to the squad. He's not just there for the sake of it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he brings to it as well. And if he gets a look at.
Seamus, the hurling squad then, that was announced also, even though we probably know most of them were, but 1 or 2 fellas coming back. I think David Qualter is supposed to be close to being back fit again.
Yeah, David Qualter getting closer and closer now, hoping to get a bit of game time in, I suppose, over the next week or two. Test the shoulder. Richie Hogan's coming back from injury. Killian Harrington has gone with a long-term shoulder injury. John McKeown has gone with a long-term shoulder injury. And then you have the likes of James Dolan, your old Curraqueel's James Dolan, who's stepped away since last year as well. So some changes, but again,
Bass as well of country.
Yeah, Frankie Bass gone as well. Yeah, so there's been there's been a bit of an influx of newer and flesher blood guys coming through from minor and under 20s. The likes of Michael Owens from Selbridge has been on the panel there, Tom Power. So the 35 or 36 that they have, it's strong. And again, a bit like the football side, there's not a whole lot there that would surprise you, I suppose. But Killian Harrington probably been the obvious one that's been there for the last number of years, and he's probably a little bit unfortunate to have picked up a serious shoulder injury. Good to see the likes of Caelan Smith coming in there from Clane, backing up a wonderful season that they had, and he's done reasonably well, in fairness to him, even against Kilkenny in that Walsh Shield final. Tim Ryan, there's Tom Power, we spoke about him earlier. There's a lot of good hurlers there, so and a lot of young hurlers, and that's testament, I suppose, to the work that's gone on in Kildare. And he just spoke to somebody this morning.
I'm just going to say that. I mean, we talk about the great work that the two Kilkenny boys have done, but I have to say, Owen Stapleton at under 20 level in Kins at minor and now under 20 level, they've done a tremendous amount of work, and they have brought this conveyor belt, which means now that these players are ready for senior hurling at a very early age.
Yeah, and like if you look, Pat, it was just something I spoke to this morning. I was just talking to Pat O'Mara there from Maynooth, who's part of the Kildare backroom setup. We were just talking about, Kildare minors in 2020 played Antrim, and of that team that played back then, Kildare had either 10 or 11 on the team on Sunday, and Antrim had 2. So, that's a fair reflection on that work that has continued on from minor to 20s and getting guys in onto the senior panel, and it bore fruit again on Sunday, and that's what you're hoping for, and that the next conveyor belt is going to be coming through.
Well, at least we have official panels anyway, at least for the league. We'll see what happens for the championships, but at the moment, those are the Kildare senior football and senior hurling squads for 2026. I presume it's just for the league. There could be changes come championship time, and obviously let's hope that there are no injuries as well. But I think, Ger, they're probably those squads are on the Kildare Nationalist website.
Yeah, certainly the football is up there anyway. Yeah, I'm sorry, both of them are yet there. Since last week. No, absolutely. Yeah. And it's it's a fair point to managers for making them clear as well. I suppose it's nice for supporters just to be able to see the full pick of the squads there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. We stick with you, Ger. Kildare Championship structure for 2026 went through on the nod, rubber stamp, no problem. Off we go on Tuesday night. No issues.
Yeah. Well, kind of by all accounts, it went through pretty. I wasn't actually at that county board meeting.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were. Yeah.
No, I wasn't at that one. No, but pretty much plain sailing in terms of that. I suppose there has been a couple of people who I've spoken to since maybe that would have a few concerns with it, like how seriously will teams take that B Championship? Look, I would be of the opinion of it that teams will get out of it what they put in. If teams don't want to take that B Championship seriously, look, they're not going to get anything out of it. The teams that want to push on and try and win a title, because let's face it, teams ranked 8 to 16 in the senior championship, they've no chance really of winning a senior title. Let's be fair about it. There's only 4 or 5 teams who will go into the senior championship with a realistic chance of actually lifting the Dermot Burke Cup. So I think it gives something else for those teams in the lower half of the senior championship to aim for. B Championship. The Talta Cup is a B Championship. The McDonagh Cup is a B Championship. Kildare thoroughly enjoyed winning both of those competitions last year. I mentioned the Junior A Championship that Robertstown won. That certainly for a club of Robertstown stature, they wouldn't have imagined that they would be in the Junior A Championship last year. But yet, when they won it, they were thoroughly delighted to have won it. So, as I said, I think they'll get over what they put into it. So I think it gives something from them. The possibility, I suppose, again at the group stages, round 3 would be interesting. How many dead rubbers will there be? Is there a benefit to finishing first rather than second, third rather than fourth? Will there lead to dead rubbers in that group stage in that final round of group games? That's something that I suppose people would have question marks about as well. I would say hopefully that there will be some exciting games there, teams trying to compete in the A Championship to avoid playing in the B Championship. I think that the fact that there was 3 teams going through and under the previous structure and our preliminary quarterfinals, I think that totally diluted the round 3 of group games. So I think even if there are 1 or 2 dead rubbers over the course of the 4 groups with this structure, I think overall, I think there should be more exciting games in that final round of group games. But I suppose it's only when it'll kind of play out that you might see a few issues popping up and a few different things that maybe will need to be ironed out. But overall, I think it's a positive move, and I'd look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, and the senior and the intermediate championships are more or less the same. And we look at the junior championship next week. Seamus, you're close enough to the clubs. What are the clubs? I know the representatives of the clubs put it through on the nod last week. What are the ordinary Joe Soaps in the clubs? What are they thinking?
Yeah, look, I'd say there's been a positive reaction to it from anyone I've spoken to. I would say that there was an appetite maybe from the last year or two for some sort of a change. I think that getting rid of the likes of the preliminary quarterfinals is a massive move. I think teams are just going to be up from the word go for those opening 3 games, and nobody wants to be heading into the championship. But as Ger said, it's certainly something to, if you're there to play for it, to aim for it, and anybody that's any bit of, I suppose, pride in the jersey will be trying to do that if they end up back in the B Championship, because there is something there to be won, and every club wants something, regardless of what it is. It's something, and it may be even at that early stage of the year, with teams with maybe young players coming through, it's an opportunity to blood some of those in the likes of the B Championship. So yeah, there's more positives, and as I said to you, there's been a good reaction from anyone I spoke to. It's been positive, and I think Noel McKenna and his team have done a really good job to come up with that formula, because they probably pulled and dragged out of it for a fair bit of time before they got it to where it is. And I think it's the fact that it went through so easily. I think most clubs are happy to see where it's going to go.
Well, in fairness,
one thing, Pat, I'd say, sorry, just about that B Championship, and I mentioned kind of the McDonagh Cup and the Talton Cup, like there is that incentive to win those competitions that you are guaranteed your place in, obviously the Sam Maguire or in the Leinster Championship then the following year. Like, I wonder, is there some sort of an incentive? I don't believe there is at the moment for the B Championship winners, maybe for the following year. Like, would you be, it's hard to see how you do it. Obviously, the 4 semi-finalists from the previous year will be seeded, so that kind of fits neatly into that. You couldn't offer the B Championship winners a seeding there, but I wonder, just as a way to maybe offer an incentive that really would kind of encourage teams to go all out to win that B Championship then as well, if there was some sort of an incentive for the following season.
Yeah, good point, DJ. Good point. What I was going to say, Tommy, was we saw how keenly the reserve championships have been contested. Wasn't it a great final? Was it between Naas and Athy last year? So you would expect that teams will, once there's a piece of silverware up there, teams will want to win it, even if it is the B Championship.
Well, yeah, Pat, you have to remember, when you go into that B Championship, there's a threat of relegation.
Yeah,
and that's why teams are going to have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
If you go in half-arsed and you lose the first game, and suddenly then you're in a relegation, you're in a scrap. Now you have the best thing about this is you have a couple of opportunities to avoid that relegation final. Obviously, before, if you finish bottom of the losers group, that was it. You were in that horrible relegation final, which can go anyway. But now, if you drop into that B Championship, no matter who you are, you have to perform and you have to win. And if you're on a bit of a slide and you're seen as one of the top 6 teams, you end up in this. You want to be very, very careful. Because it can be. I think it's something that teams will take seriously as well. I think the best thing about this format from the beginning of the championship is it removes that we've won the preliminary round game. We're grand now. We won't get relegated. Yeah. So we're in a group with Naas, Athy, and Selbridge, or BRH. We'll tip through it, and that's it. Yeah. Whereas now, if you do end up in a group of death, and you realistically are a team, because we know there are probably 12 teams. Well, 12 is probably a bit unfair. Probably 10 teams probably can't win the championship. So if they end up in the group of death, they can say, right, we're going to give this a good rattle, but we're more than likely they'll never say it, but we're not more than likely head for the B Championship. And that can be an extra target for them that they can build. Suddenly the season isn't over. They build up, try to get some kind of silverware, because there's teams floating around that senior championship for donkey's years, and they're just getting the win here or there. They're staying around. In their heads, they want to be competitive. Well, this senior B Championship now does give them something to go for. I genuinely think it'll be good. It will be really interesting. I'm looking forward to that relegation scrap, because the proper relegation, same as the ladies in the All Ireland Championship series, Pat. You see the way they get a couple of opportunities. There's a relegation semi-final. If you lose that, you go into the relegation final. So there's basically no excuses for getting relegated.
True, yeah. I'll have to check in with Austin Evan to see which championship match he wants to star in 2026. So we'll check in with Austin. Anyway, those are the new championship formats which will come into operation for the championships, and in the year of 2026. You'll see them there on the Kildare Nationalist website and also on Tommy's social media. Those graphics are there on Tommy's social media. So yeah, you can have a good look at it. We'll have a good look at the Junior Championship next week. Lads, a little bit of something might be thrown into the mix. That's the possibility of the All-Ireland final dates being changed into later in August, which might make it a little bit difficult and maybe push the championships back a little while, and maybe the county finals will be end of November, beginning of December. Any thoughts on that, Ger?
Kind of, yeah. Like it's hard to kind of please everybody, and when you talk about every county, like just talk to some dual counties being very against this motion as well that goes to Congress, I think, at the end of the month. So there is no ideal solution that's going to fit all 32 counties, and even within counties, then different clubs will obviously have their own opinions, and whether you're a dual club or not would be significant on top of that as well. So yeah, look, I wouldn't be a huge fan of pushing county finals back towards November, really. I thought the end of kind of the middle of October was a nice one. We've kind of gone forward now to the start of October with the way that things are at the moment. Yeah, look, I think heading into November, and then you're talking about an All-Ireland series probably going on. Like, everything has a knock-on effect. You can't move one thing without having an impact somewhere else. So yeah, I think they have to think carefully. Like, obviously, the general consensus, I think, is that the All-Ireland finals should be moved back to August. I think the end of July is kind of time enough for the All-Ireland series, that bank holiday weekend, if that was kind of an All-Ireland final, and then allow the clubs to take over then kind of early in August. I think that would be kind of the way I would lean towards. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There's a lot of people with very strong opinions and differing opinions, and as I said, there's just no solution that's going to please everybody. So it's something that's probably always going to be tinkered with from now till the end of time, really. You know, we'll be pushing things one direction, pulling them the other, and moving things all over the place. But you have to be very, very careful. I think that the club game has done well, I think, over the last couple of years with the split season. But my concern is that what David Hyland spoke about as well, and as a successful county player is basically just playing 12 months of the year now, and that's very, very hard for the elite players, and it has to have a toll on their bodies at some stage as well. So I think that has to be something that people are very conscious of as well, that county players have to get a break. It's okay if you're a club player, you get your season then. Kildare, I think, very, very strong. Kildare, the envy of a lot of counties around the country in terms of the league season. They have a really well organised league that runs very, very well for 3 or 4 months, and a good championship then as well. Club players that get a good break generally then, kind of the ones that aren't involved in Leinster, kind of from the end of October, the end of September, sometimes into the start of whatever December before Christmas when they're back on the field. But it's the county players that are just going 12 months around that have to, they need a break somewhere as well along the line.
And after bringing back the pre-season championships, or whatever you want to call them, tournaments, Seamus, now Tom Ryan, the arch juror of the GAA, is going along the lines that he'd like to have them removed. But sure, that's just going to mean that we'll have challenge games instead of a structured tournament. It doesn't mean that the Sigerson Cup is not going to be going ahead, or the Fitzgibbon Cup is not going to go ahead, or the colleges games, or the schools, post-primary schools. I mean, Colin Moore could be playing still, or whatever, So I'm not so sure I thought there was a bit of excitement about the pre-season tournaments this year.
Yeah, look, I think when they went, there was the feeling that they were missed, and the preparation the teams got on the run into championships. I suppose you take Kildare hurlers this year getting 2 really good games before they went into the start of the National League. But I'd have serious concerns about the mentality of the GAA overall, because we're talking about massive figures that was turned over and made last year, and it's like as if we're squeezing out the club players to the last of their that they can get out of them, sort of in a short space of time. And what Ger said, here we go. If we start going down that road, everything gets pushed out. There's a problem with Leinster Club Championship or O'Connell Club Championships or wherever it might be. Then you're going to clash with Sigerson's when you go into January and February. There's such a massive knock-on effect. I can't see this getting through the rigour at all, but I am worried about Croke Park's thinking on the likes of this and bringing it to Congress, because the club player, again, the seasons were moved before to accommodate the inter-county season being condensed. The county or the club players were pushed back out. Now we're talking about condensing it again, maybe even further for the club players, and I don't think that's right. And as Ger said, then making it a full 12-month season for inter-county players, trying to service your club and service your county. So no, I can't see that. And your college, and I can't see that getting any traction or getting through Congress, because I think if anyone sits down and looks at the effects that it's going to have, it is a serious problem.
Yeah,
but that's the thing, though. Will they kind of sit down and take the full impact of it into consideration before voting, or will they just go for the headline thing of moving the All Ireland final back to August without kind of fully, not obviously understanding, but maybe not taking into account the full implications of what that move could mean for the knock-on effect they will have down the line?
Yeah, it'll be interesting indeed. Well, I know the O'Connell has said he's kind of in favour of moving it. He actually said towards the end of August, which would be an even more difficult scenario for clubs. But we'll have to see. That motion will be before Congress. I think it's early March, but I'm not sure of the exact date. Of course, the big thing will be the end of February. Is it? The big thing will be, of course, that the O'Connell Tough will take place at that particular one. So it'll be interesting to see whether it will be Leinster, Munster, or Connacht man will get through. But we'll look at that later on. Tommy, let's look at the ladies' football. Another defeat for Kildare ladies. Not surprising, I suppose, because that's a decent Galway team. They were beaten 2-12 to 1-7. But Sullivan said the two goals, particularly the one before halftime, was the killer there. It's going to be a difficult year in Division 1 for Kildare this year, and they need to start picking up points. Probably should have done something against Armagh. Maybe should have won the game against Cork.
Yeah, that's really good way of putting it, Pat, because there's no point in focusing on this game as a standalone. The difficulty now is the points that were left behind. Obviously should have got something out of Cork. Now it's not all their own fault why they didn't get something out of Cork. The Armagh game, letting Armagh get a run at them in the second half, things going wrong, poor passing, positioning, different things like that. They'll be very disappointed that Armagh match. We look back at it. Last year they were picking up points they weren't expecting to pick up, because they were expected to get, a bit of a trimming in most of the games last year and to get relegated. And suddenly they were really picking up the right points. They probably should have got a few more points in Division 1 last year as well, a couple of close games. But I think this year, the Kildare last year knew they had the measure of the likes of Tyrone, for example. And maybe at the start of the year, possibly Waterford. So they were the teams that they were targeting. They knew the Tyrone match was last as well. But then they started picking up these points, whereas this year, it's going to be very difficult. Obviously, we have to remember it is a very young team. There's been a turnover of quite a few players.
Massive,
you can see they're obviously minding Alana Price at the moment as well. And Lara Curran has picked up an injury as well. So we're missing a couple of very important players there outside from the ones that are in the squad. Like Alana's super player, we saw she did score at the weekend as well, and a lot of focus on the younger players. But they're really difficult games to come, Pat. I think they will still be confident. I'll show the fixtures up here now. Obviously, they will be confident, but next up they have to travel to Dublin, and that is huge. And the reason it's huge is because Dublin are behind them in the table. Dublin are last.
That's right.
Kildare second last. Kildare are only 2 points behind Armagh and Meath. Lost to Armagh, still have to play Meath, but we know Meath are getting a few players back. They'll start to find a rhythm as well. But that Dublin match is massive, and then immediately after that, then in a 6-day turnaround, you have the huge doubleheader in St. Conleth's Park, that Meath game, or for the course Kerry to finish off. So there are points there, Pat, to be got.
Absolutely.
That's going to be disappointing at the weekend. Galway took their scores quite well. We spoke, Pat, last week about those long range scores that we saw them kicking that came to pass last weekend. They're a super team for kicking long shots. I'd be keeping a very close eye on them now for that All Ireland this year. They seem to be in really good shape. I wouldn't write off Kildare just yet. There's still 4 matches left. There's no fear in these girls either, and that those young players, mixed with the experience, they could still pull it around.
Ger, I said it before and I'll say it again. The absence of Mary Hulgrain is immense. She was absent for the first game against Waterford last year, But as soon as she came back, Kildare started to win and put in good performances. She gives great confidence, and she's a great, nothing against Rachel Fennon or at that. She's done a great job, but I think Mary Fennon, Mary Hulgrain is a big loss, and obviously the players that Tommy mentioned there, and then of course you have the players who are not available anymore, like Nasa Dooley and Ellen and Claire Sullivan, and Ellen Dowling and Claire Sullivan, and Laura Gilbert is injured, and a few players like that. It's a team that needs a bit of suppose leadership in inverted commas.
Yeah, and look, there are good leaders on that Kildare team. I mean, Leisha Lenihan would sit in amongst all those names. I think she's a fantastic captain. But yeah, the goalkeeper position is just such a key position. And again, absolutely nothing against Rachel Fennon, who had a really good game against Armagh, kept a clean sheet that day and made an absolutely crucial save as well down in Cork. But, every team, top team needs a really good goalkeeper. And I think it's no coincidence that Kildare's best games and best achievements over the last 10 years, Mary Hulgrain has been between the posts, because she's just an outstanding goalkeeper, and she's a real rock solid nerve as well in terms of her kick out as well, because the kick out in ladies football is so key, and there's the option to bang it 70 yards down the field and just get it as far away from the goal isn't there. You have to pick out a short kick out generally, and it's very hard to do when the pressure is on, and Mary has done that down through the years and kept Kildare in many games with some top class saves. But the only thing is, there's no point really in talking with the players who aren't there, as much as you'd have to heighten respect for those players that you've mentioned there, Pat, and some of them have given an incredible service to Kildare. But you have to play the hand you're dealt with, and at the moment Kildare have a very young panel, and it's up to the players who are there along with the management team to try and find a way of getting results. And as Tommy said, it does look bleak. It's the old saying, when you're at the poker table, if you can't pick out the sucker, then generally the sucker is yourself. So Kildare looking around for the soft touch, maybe the target for the game. They're probably the ones that the other teams are looking at, in fairness, that are the opportunity to get points on the board. So it's up to Kildare to put that so damn right, prove them right. And I'd say particularly that game against Meath.
Mm-hmm. I think Lassie has come home. Lassie has come home. Seamus, while Seamus, Gerald dealing with the vet there. You had updates on KFM for the match against Armagh, and you'll have seen what happened against Galway and against Cork. Kildare are not playing badly, but there just seems to be, to win games under the new rules and all of that. It's not just there yet.
Yeah, no, and that's probably it, Pat, summed up in a nutshell. But you can take positives from the Armagh match and from the Cork match, and maybe Galway were just that little bit stronger, and maybe further down the road than Kildare are at the moment. But you can talk about it, I suppose, forever. I think Pat Sullivan has to be given time and patience to build what he's trying to build. You're talking about a Kildare team who have come off a tremendous run from right up to Division 1, All-Ireland Intermediate Championship. But like last year, they did show a lot of character, to hang on to that senior status. And that's, that's the thing that you have to look at it from his point of view, is that there has to be a bit of patience. It's going to take time. You could end up maybe going the other way before you come back again. But in saying that, and Tommy said it, there are opportunities to pick up a couple of wins, but there was passages of play. You'd have to say that Kildare, I suppose against Armagh, there was a lot of cross-field passing, and that they got intercepted, and it gave Armagh a lot of chances in that match, especially in the first half. So there are little things they'll learn and they'll build on as they're going along. And Pat said it the last day after we spoke to him about that Armagh match. There's a lot of girls that still have to come in. There's a lot of people that he wants to still have a look at. They're going to have to get game time and be blooded into that environment. So as I said, there's a bit of patience to be borne out over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Well, as Tommy says, the next game is away to Dublin on Sunday the 22nd. No match this weekend. That's at 2:00. No venue as yet. So that's a vital game for Kildare, and we wish them the very best of luck, and look forward to talking to some of the players over the next couple of days, and watch out for the Kildare Nationalist next week. We'll have an interview with a couple of exciting guests. Tommy, sticking with the female version of the GAA, and it's the first match for the new Kildare Camogie manager, the new Kildare Camogie squad, and that's away to Roscommon on Saturday in down in Ballyforan.
Yeah, kind of two teams quite very familiar with each other. played in the same division for the last couple of years. But it's about more than that. It's first of all, it's great to see this Kildare team back again. There's such difficulties over the last couple of years. We're able to play a championship at one stage. There's obviously that huge influx of Naas players this year back into the squad, which is massive because we don't really know what was going on the last couple of years. You could never really get an answer from anybody. But to see that list of the squad list going in, and to see all those names under the Naas crest was brilliant. And it's a testament as well to the other players that made it onto that squad. They're battling against, Naas are obviously county champions or multi-county champions, and to battle their way into that squad, by all accounts there was it 60, Pat, he was looking at? 60 players kind of put their hands up to say that they wanted to be involved, which again is brilliant. That just shows that the want is there to play for the county. But again, it's a smaller group, it's a smaller division this year. There were 6 in it last year, 5 in it this year. It's the same format up the top. The top 2 go into a league final, and then the winner is promoted. Kildare finished second from bottom last year. This team that they're playing, Roscommon, they lost Roscommon last year. I think it was a late comeback.
Draw? Was it not a draw? Was it not a draw?
I thought it was a draw the year. I thought it was a draw the year before.
Maybe it's the year before. Maybe. Yeah.
It's very close anyway.
Year, very close.
Yeah, I think last year Kildare were winning well. Yeah. And Roscommon came back and beat them near the end. And the year before was a draw. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe that's what it was.
This is probably.
Of course, they had Wicklow beaten last year and gave it away in the last 3 or 4 minutes as well. So
so last year could have went anyway at all.
Absolutely. Take a point or two of those 2 games. I have to say, great credit goes to the players who played last year. Some of them are not there this year now, so that's unfortunate. But the players who tugged out last year, I think there was only about 20 most of the time, but they deserve great credit for representing Kildare so very, very well. But there's a big opportunity now. Rob O'Neill knows a lot of these players. He would have managed them at they won the All-Ireland B there 2 years ago and at minor level. So these are players coming through now. They're great ability. Obviously, it's a learning experience for them, but there's a few players there who will have that experience and a good performance on Saturday, and then play Wicklow away. So 2 away games at the start is a difficult one, but those are 2 games I would say, Seamus, that they're capable of winning.
Yeah, they're on paper certainly of the 2. It's just looking at the fixtures. It's nice to have Armagh Tyrone at home. That you're not making that long journey, for the want of a better word. But certainly. And I happened to see that Roscommon game last year. There was a lot of good camogie by the Kildare girls, and just unfortunate that it didn't go their way on the day. But I think now the strength and depth that's come back into the panel, and Leah Sutton coming back in there at centre half forward. She's a massive player for Kildare, has been down the last couple of years, and she'll be a focal point. She's an accomplished free taker as well. So they're all good things to have on it. And as I say, Wicklow last year was a game they should have won. So they could get off to a very bright start before the end of the month, and that would set them up nicely for the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, Eva McDermott, exciting player. So too, Kate Murphy, 1 or 2 others there. As you mentioned, Leah Sutton, what a performance she gave every game last year. So you'd have to say that there's enough talent there, Ger, to do something for Kildare Camogie. And I know they want to be in the league final. They want to win the league. They want to get out of Division 3A.
Yeah, well, even just talking like that, Pat, I read their report, obviously, your interview that you have with Rob O'Neill. It's on the Nationalist website there as well. It's in the paper there this week. The manager is talking about big things, and that sets us all out very very quickly indeed, and the players know exactly what the manager expects and what he's demanding, and kind of there's no sugarcoating it or hiding away from it. Kildare are making that their ambition. They want to be in the league final this year, and with those nice players back in the squad, it's a much more balanced squad. I suppose you have to say much more quality, much more strength and depth. And as Pat, you're very right to kind of commend the players who played last year in difficult circumstances and kept the show on the road really for Kildare when things weren't rosy. So they deserve huge credit. But at the same time, it's fantastic to have these nice players back involved. I mean, imagine the Kildare hurling team or even the football team without the Naas contingent. They're hugely powerful club across all the codes, and have so many good players across male and female, whether it's the big ball or small ball. So to have all them back on board is a huge advantage for Kildare, and it certainly strengthens Rob O'Neill's hand, and makes them a completely different prospect going into this league campaign, and gives them every opportunity, I think, of fulfilling that ambition of making that league final.
We want to wish the very best of luck to Rob O'Neill and the team. And Tommy, we are delighted to say we have that team, Kildare team, that will play Roscommon on Saturday in Ballyfourne.
Yeah, Pat, absolutely. We'll be given the team that's going to take on Roscommon. Obviously, when this goes out on Friday morning, we're hoping that team should be announced around the same time. But just to run through it, as well as Roisin Roach is in goals from Naas, she's also the captain. Full back line of Shauna Dunn from Athy, Niamh Hegarty from Naas, and the vice captain, Cy Horgan from Maynooth. St Lawrence's Queebo Sullivan, right half back, Anya Conway, centre half back from Naas, and left half back Kate Murphy from Naas, Louise Murphy from Athy, and Sarah Carroll from Naas midfield. You can already see how strong this team is, in fairness, can't you? Like, just as we're going through it, you can see why they're so confident this year. Rebecca McDermott, right half forward, Leah Sutton, centre half forward, and Aoife Steins, left half forward. Ali McGrath in the corner, number 13 from Naas, Aoife McDermott, full forward from Naas, and Niamh Martell from Selbridge makes up that starting 15. The subs are Ellie Heffernan from Maynooth, Leisha Mimna from Selbridge, Fasai Ní Conraha from Naas, Roisin Naughton from Selbridge, Aoife McCarthy from Naas, Grania Dowling from Naas, Saeed Buckley from Maynooth, Molly Burns from Rathcoffey, Kelly Bracken from Leixlip, Michelle Brogan from Ardclough, Sophie Hazard from Naas, Niamh Farrell from Maynooth, Caoimhe Ní Verkale from Johnstown Bridge, Laura Edwards from Clane, and Ciara Ryan from Naas. So that's the team, Pat, and we are going to get updates as the match goes on Saturday. So the very best of luck to them, and we'll be talking a lot more about them over the next couple of weeks, because it is great to get that camogie season back up and running.
Absolutely, and so say all of us. And as I said, lads, it's great to have the pre-season competitions back again. The Aldridge, Keogh and Dowling Cups are back, and we look at the Aldridge Cup fixtures this weekend. We'll get the glasses on for that. Johnstown Bridge are at home to Easttown, Clane versus Naas, Sarsfields versus Maynooth, and Clogher Enco versus Moorfield. Interesting games in all of those there, Seamus.
Yeah, certainly are, Pat. Those eyes will be on the county champions Athy to see what way they set up on Saturday afternoon. They play or entertain Alan Wood at home at 2:30. Some good games there across it, but of course the weather is probably going to play havoc before Saturday afternoon comes around, because the rain that has fallen, as you said, Pat, last night, most of today, and again this evening. There'll be a lot of pitches just won't be able to handle it and won't be playable. So that's going to be an issue before the weekend, but good to get the club scene up and running. It's a competition that I always felt probably would fit in better further down the year, or maybe after the end of the leagues, and with a 5 or 6 week break before championship, where teams might have a better opportunity to get to look at guys and stuff like that, because this time of the year it's hit and miss, and sometimes games are not played, and you're trying to get that competition finished before the start of the leagues proper, probably usually the end of March. So, but yeah, look, it's good on paper to have it there up and running in the 3 competitions, and there's a couple of matches there that have interesting, there are interesting fixtures, and I suppose from that point of view, it's just to see what teams are going to put out. You probably see a lot of reserves. You can't imagine a lot of guys will be involved at this early stage of the season either.
Yeah, the fixtures I gave you were just for the Group A of the Aldridge Cup. The Group B fixtures are Carbery versus Kilcock, Sallins versus Selbridge. That should be an interesting one. As you say, Seamus, there, Athy versus Alan Wood, and Raheens versus Kappa. That should be an interesting one as well. All those matches at 2:30 on Saturday, rain and everything permitting. And then we'll all hightail it off to Cedar St. Conleth's Park to see Kildare versus Derry. Okay. Rugby, Ger, the Irish team has been selected for the match against Italy. Still Kildare players involved, but maybe not as many starting this week as there was last week.
Yeah, three starting, and then 2 dropped, and from my limited knowledge of rugby, I have to say the two that were dropped were probably unfortunate, and maybe the last two of the 5 Kildare men that I would have thought would have been dropped out of the team, Tyke Byrne and Cian Prendergast, who I thought was probably the best of the Kildare bunch last weekend. You know, he had a real kind of hard-working and busy display. So Jeremy Lockman keeps his place in the front row. Jamie Osborne at fullback as well. He obviously went onto the wing last week, and his versatility is probably a key part of why he's so rated by Andy Farrell. And then, of course, there's Sam Prendergast, who, there's so much talk about young Sam. God, he's the centre of, the centre of so much debate. I have to say, a lot of it, I think, is just a kind of Munster v Leinster fans within the country. I think he's a lightning rod for a lot of the criticism based on that. He's still obviously a very young player. There's no doubt about it that he has weaknesses in his game that probably need to be ironed out. You could argue, does Jack Crowley at the moment have more to his game? But I think, when you see the things that Sam does when he does them good, he shows his potential and shows the reason why he's in the team. He had a key part of in both tries that Ireland scored in the second half, and a lot of the good things that Ireland did went through Prendergast. So you can see why Andy Farrell is placing his faith in him, and hopefully kind of these sticky moments as a young player will benefit him in the long run. And he's going to be the kind of out half for Ireland that Ronan O'Gara or Johnny Sexton were. But yeah, some of the criticism that Prendergast is just way over the top. But I think it's just driven, as I said, from that kind of Munster v Leinster rivalry that there is within the country, and especially when there's obviously Munster have their man in the corner with Crowley, and Leinster have Sam Prendergast, and I think that is kind of at the heart of a lot of the criticism that Prendergast gets.
Well, sure. Going back in my day, you had, of course, a great debate over Ollie Campbell and Tony Ward. Then there was Johnny Sexton and Ronan O'Gara. So here we are. It's back.
And we didn't see Johnny Sexton. We didn't see Johnny Sexton till his mid-20s. Johnny Sexton was not within an arse's roar of. He wasn't near getting putting out Contapomi at this age, and he wasn't anywhere near an Irish team at this age. The Prendergast is at, and the bile that he's getting from Irish people is absolutely septic at the moment. No, I mean, this lad is so far ahead of where Sexton, and people are saying, he's no few. I remember Johnny Sexton playing for those Irish Wolfhounds over the US when they were touring, and he was brutal. And even lads were getting on the same, he can't run properly, his pass is too slow, he can't kick. Johnny Sexton turns out to be one of the greatest of all time. I mean, Sam Prendergast was such a young man starting for Ireland, and he wasn't that bad last week either. Not as bad as people are making it out to be. But he was targeted by massive men coming through the middle, and he put down a lot of them. So.
And he was playing on an Irish team that was playing with a lack of confidence and a lack of everything on Saturday last. But around Suncroft Way, Seamus, the Prendergasts are still kings.
Absolutely, Pat, and will remain so. But look, it's disappointing, I suppose, for Keane not to see him hanging on to even a squad position. But I don't think his time is done. I think we'll see more of him again. I think there might be a feeling among some genuine Irish supporters that the English game is massive coming up, and the likes of Gibson Park and maybe Tyke Byrne and Tadhg Furlong and that maybe they just need a bit more time and maybe a little bit of a rest, for the want of a better word. But look, I concur with what the lads are saying. It's sick on what you read and what you see and what you hear about players in general. And it's so disappointing for any young lad, no matter who you are, what you're playing, to be subjected to that sort of stuff. But I know Sam is a fairly well-grounded young lad. It was gas. I was reading something earlier in the day. I was talking about Ronan O'Gara and Johnny Sexton when they used to go to matches or to training or whatever, more so training when they'd be together. There wasn't a whole lot of talk that went on between them. But Sam was just saying that, in the car, when they go kicking practice and stuff like that, as the likes of Harry Bourne himself and Crowley are the best of friends, and they're probably having giggles behind it all, but they're not getting it easy. But look, at Ireland need to get a win. I think they're suffering from maybe that Lions tour losing Farrell when we didn't have the opportunity, maybe to blood players when we should have had last year, and they just kept going with what they had. So now they've got a lot of work to do before the World Cup. I think I said that last week or the week before. So look, from that point of view, it's a big game on Saturday. But everybody just needs to get behind what's there and trust in the process. And it's I don't think Tyke Byrne, as I said, I wouldn't look at him as being dropped. I think maybe it's a
No,
situation where rest more than anything else, and the Triple Crown is still on the line.
Absolutely. Ger, locally then, Athy lost to Wicklow. Naas lost out to Blackrock. Well, that's no big surprise there. It's a very, very strong Blackrock team. Newbridge, though, had a victory over Edenderry, but Coolmine had victory over Kildare. So 1 out of 4 is not what I suppose what the local rugby team wanted.
Yeah, no, and that's a couple of kind of significant defeats there, particularly for Athy in that Leinster League Division 1A there against a relegation rival Wicklow. We spoke about it last week, kind of just saying that how important that it might be come the end of the season. It probably removes Wicklow away from the relegation battle, really, and it's probably going to be a straight shootout now between Athy and Tullow, between who's going to drop into that relegation playoff place. Wexford Wanderers could adrift at the bottom of the table. They certainly will be at the automatic side relegated, but that second spot that we're going to the relegation playoff with the second place in Division 1B, Athy, and they're in a bit of a perilous situation now because Tullow are only 2 points behind them. Tullow have 3 games to play, Athy only have 2, so yeah, it's going to be pretty nerve-wracking there over the last couple of weeks. It was very tight between Tullow, Athy, and I think Carlow would have eventually decided went down last year. So it looks like it's going to be pretty similar there again. Naas then as well, that defeat against Blackrock. And I know you say Blackrock are probably, I suppose, obviously a very kind of respected name in rugby, but they are only second bottom last week, and that win actually leapfrogged Blackrock over Naas and puts Naas into second bottom there as well. So Naas in a bit of relegation bottom there as well in the AIL Division 1B as well. So they probably have to get their winning groove back on very quickly indeed. Both Naas and Athy had good wins the previous week, but then they lost the relegation rivals last weekend. So yeah, they're in a spot of bother. But yeah, it's more I suppose better outlook for Newbridge than in Division 2A. That win that you had last week, that still has them in with a shout of a playoff place in Division 2A. They're level on points with Longford, although Longford have played a game more, and there's a big local derby on Sunday there now between Newbridge and Kildare out in Rosestown, if that goes ahead with the weather that we have as well. But that will be an interesting one. Kildare, just outside their promotion place, is probably too far back now to have any interest in the promotion race, but they might fancy the chances of maybe knocking Newbridge promotion hopes there on Sunday. Newbridge still with a chance, so yeah, that'll be a good game, I'm sure, for anybody around the area.
Yeah, good to see Liffey Celtics getting back on the winning trail again. They had a big win over the weekend. Important to get back on the winning track and move up the table again.
Yeah, sorry, just before we leave rugby, Pat, just to mention as well, Newbridge College actually only today were knocked out of the senior cup there. So disappointment for them. They lost by 12 points to no score actually in the end by St. Mary's. So yeah, disappointment for them because they'd had a decent league and were hoping to go well there in the senior cup. But yeah, that's the end of their aspirations. But yeah, and the basketball then, Liffey Celtics, yeah, we kind of had spoken about them last week as well, needing just to kind of end a bit of a losing run. They'd probably been feeling a little bit sorry for themselves since they lost that National Cup final. But yeah, that was an important win there as well. So they're kind of back onto a winning groove as well. So hopefully they can move up the table there before the end of the season.
Absolutely. Ger, you were in big company during the week, shoulder to shoulder with Willie Mullins down in Carlow. But our old friend Mark Walsh doing the business again with Dino Blue last weekend in Naas.
Yeah, the winning run for Mark Walsh keeps on going. He had a couple of winners there, I think, and punches down during the week leading in then, and then Naas also as well. Yeah, and we were down with Willie Mullins yesterday. Also had a chance to talk to Paul Townend as well, and they're obviously geared up now towards the Cheltenham Festival. But yeah, Willie was actually talking about Mark at one stage and just kind of paid testament to his mental resolve, and how I suppose he hasn't let the announcement of Harry Cobden's impending arrival as the number one jockey in the McManus ranks affect him in any way. He obviously had a fantastic DRF and is now kind of very much looking forward to the Cheltenham Festival. Still, the big question that is unanswered at the moment is whether Fact to File will follow up on that Irish Gold Cup performance in the DRF by being supplemented into the Cheltenham Gold Cup, which would mean that Mark Walsh would surely be on the favourite then for the Cheltenham Gold Cup were that to happen. I think all the indications are that surely it will. I know the way you're thinking hasn't lived up to his billing after last year's fantastic year. I suppose McManus does have the option of Spillane Tower as well, the Jimmy Mangan trained horse who maybe would have an outside chance of a Gold Cup, but when you have a horse as good as Factifile, I think it's hard to imagine that they won't supplement him in and give Mark Walsh that ride as the favourite in the Gold Cup. And what an opportunity then he would have to have back-to-back Gold Cups, which will be incredible. Paul Townend has done that on a couple of occasions over the last few years with Albin Photo and then Gallup and Deschamps. And Gallup and Deschamps not out of the reckoning yet. He was tipped up by a lot of people to have a good run into the RF and didn't quite land that 4 in a row, but he's still going looking for his third Gold Cup as well. And Paul Townend was very keen to stress yesterday that he certainly still has his opportunities as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but it's hard to imagine that they won't supplement in Factifile and give Mark Walsh a real crack at a second Gold Cup in a row.
Red Mills Day in Gorn on Saturday, Seamus, and then we have is it Punchestown on Sunday. Any tips for us this weekend? You're our lucky charm.
Holding my right, Pat. Haven't had a good look yet, but there are probably 2 meetings that are going to be subject to, especially Gordon, to the weather over
the rest of the time, isn't it? That track will be underwater nearly.
That's true too. Yeah, they probably took fair punishment there at the Thyestes Day because it was absolutely bottomless. But Red Mills Day in Gordon on Saturday. You have the Grade 2 chase and you have the Red Mills hurdle trial. But at this stage, all eyes are firmly focused on the Cheltenham for any of the top trainers and any of the top horses. They'll be all hoping to keep a clean bill of health and what looks like it's going to be a really good festival again for the Irish team going across. And as I concur there with Jerry, be looking forward to seeing how Mark Walsh goes. But I think listening to stories, you'd be very surprised if Factifile doesn't run there, and he's be a banker for a lot of Irish people if he turns up in the same form he was at the Dublin Racing Festival.
Absolutely.
And just when the stable visits were on during the week as well, and our own Barry Connell was at the attention on Monday. We didn't go out to that obviously because Monday's a deadline day with the paper, but yeah, we got plenty of quotes in from Barry, and he is never shy in speaking up his confidence in his horses, and particularly Marine National, who has been an unbelievable horse for him and has already 2 Cheltenham Festival wins. And Barry Connell is very confident that Marine National can go back and retain that champion chase crown that he won there last year and get a 3rd Cheltenham Festival winner for the horse. And he's a couple of others as well, each to their own. I think is a horse that he will run in the Supreme on the first day as well, the first race of the first day. But no doubt about it that Marine National is his stable star. And yeah, Barry Connell not shy in speaking up his chances, and it's going to be an interesting one because Mark Walsh's balls in the saddle of his big opposition there in Marlborough for William Mullins and JP McManus as well. So yeah, some interesting battles as well, and that will be one of the big ones.
And of course, we can't forget our old friend Ross O'Sullivan. He always comes up with something big around Cheltenham, wasn't it? An 80-1 second place 2 years ago.
And he had a good winner there and Nace there last weekend as well, I think as well. So yeah, Ross is always thereabouts, and he's definitely one to keep an eye on in those big handicaps. I'm sure he'll have something that won't be too far away. Absolutely not. So there, we're talking about Cheltenham, and then we'll be talking about Punchestown, then we'll be talking about the Kildare Championships, and then we'll be talking about the All Ireland, and we're not going to talk about anything else this week, lads. I think we've had enough. Tommy, you happy with what we've discussed this week? Have you anything more to add?
I do have one quick thing to add that we can't not mention on the podcast. That is the win for Trinity College in the Trench Cup last night.
That's right.
Obviously, big for them to get back up into the Sigerson Cup, but plenty of Kildare involvement, Pat. Whereas Maynooth had 3 involved, so 2 players. Kieran Flanagan, who we spoke at length about on this podcast, a lot for his performances for Maynooth. A few of us probably tipped him actually to possibly be involved in Brian Flanagan's plans this year. And Killian Garrity was the other Maynooth player, and also Dom Holmes is on the management team there. But also Milltown's Hugh Hamilton was on the squad, I'm pretty sure, and also at Garvin's Sean O'Malan, who wouldn't have been a million miles away from getting on that junior team of the year. He had a fantastic year in goals at Garvin. So congratulations to all the Kildare lads enjoying that Trench Cup win last night. That was a great news to hear all those lads were involved.
Yeah, and we had Kildare players, or we had Kildare players involved in the Giles Cup as well. I think that's the ladies' championship, and I think there's some Camogie players from Kildare also involved in the colleges as well. So we wish them the best of luck. Ger, is it over and out?
No, I have a few bits here just to wrap up, Pat. Just on the soccer front, first off, Monasterevin ladies had a wonderful win away to St. John Bosco. in Dublin there last weekend, and they're now, I think it's the quarterfinals of the LFA Shield. And it's also St. John Bosco who are the opponents for Clonmullion tomorrow night as we record this, in the last 16 of the LFA Cup as well. So weather permitting, I'll be heading up to that one. St. John Bosco are actually a former club of mine when I was a young lad back in the day up around Drimna. So yeah, they're up there in the Astros, so hopefully that goes ahead. But it's a huge game for Clonmullion, like we spoke about there. Leinster aspirations on a couple of occasions, and they obviously had a win in Wexford since defeating Evergreen, I think at the end of November last year. So a chance to get into the quarterfinals, and yeah, hopefully they can do that. And the very best of luck to them. Rathangan were beaten last weekend in that competition, so Clonmullion are the last of the Kildare League teams there in that competition. And then just some boxing as well.
Put a bet on it now, Ger. Cody Mulhall to score 2 goals.
Well, yeah, at least 2, yeah.
And Ger, before you move off soccer, Casavilla's under 13s are still in the schoolboys FAI Cup, unbelievably. I get in rarefied air. You want to see the teams left in that, but they beat Boyne Rovers 4-1 last week. So one of the very few Kildare teams that have made it in the last 16 of this SFAI Cup. So fair play to them. Best luck on their last 16 game. Wait,
a few more podcasts like this, and we won't find the winter going in.
Like the talent out in Castledermot is still going strong, and the League of Ireland, Pat, then as well, of course, is starting as well. And I have actually put together something of a list here of Kildare players. I should have maybe passed it on to Tommy, and he could have put it into his very fancy looking graphics. But I'll just cut out some of the players that I suppose maybe for people to keep an eye on. This is not an exhaustive list. I'm sure I'm missing a couple. And we would have had, obviously, in the Premier Division, Michael Noonan, I suppose, is the star, Alex Noonan and Igor Vassman, and then on the fringes of things with Shamrock Rovers in Waterford, then Conan Noonan has a permanent move down there, and Conor Carty, who's probably just across the border from Dunlavin and Wicklow, but would have played most of his football as a youngster in around Newbridge Town and Mill Celtic as well, and had a spell across the water with Wolves and a couple of other teams as well. So he's one to keep an eye on with Waterford as well. Then there's a whole host of players then in the first division, and again, I'm probably missing some. So if there are players that we've left off this list, do let us know. But yeah, for Bray Wanderers, there's Jamie Duggan, Dean O'Shea, and Ethan Cheese. At Lone Town of Oisin Hand and Thomas Constantine. Wexford of goalkeeper Alex Moody. Rory Feely then is at Cork. Colin Bolton and Carl Lennox are with UCD, with Leo Healy and Sam Neville then just on the fringes of things. They were involved with the colleges team. And then Swaze Urhu, who of course his sister is involved with the Kildare ladies team. He's with Longford Town this year as well. So there's just some of the players that are involved in the League of Ireland this year from Kildare. As I said, probably missing a couple there as well. So if there are others. And
Kieran Goodduff managing
Goodduff, yeah. And James Crawford is the other one. I'm not quite sure if he's actually finalised on a team or what way he's fixed after that move to Barnsley fell through in the transfer window. I'm not sure if he's back with Wexford or if he's going to move on elsewhere after that. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands.
He's still around anyhow, Ger, so I don't know what his situation is, but I must find out actually over the weekend.
Yes, the first weekend for the first division. Last weekend was the first weekend for the Premier Division. So
again, weather permitting.
Interesting. We have to keep an eye on all the Kildare players involved there. You were going to talk about boxing and another big win for a Kildare boxer there, yeah?
Yeah, Sarah Murphy as well. So yeah, another female boxer who we believe, I think, is the youngest Irish female professional boxer of all time. She's only 18 years of age, and she had her second win there as well. She beat Catherine Quintana in Leopardstown Racecourse as well. So another Kildare person doing very well at Leopardstown Racecourse as well. So yeah, good to see her. And she's based in Kildare Town, fighting out of that St. Bridget's Club as well. So a lot of really fantastic support out around there. Paddy Phelan as well, her own father Wes as well, is a big part of the team there as well. So helping Sarah. So then there's like Kelsey Leonard just making her way in the professional ranks, but yeah, her second win. So two for North so far for Sarah Murphy. So best of luck again. We're keeping an eye on her as she progresses up the ranks too.
Yeah, I think Kelsey Leonard is out in April again, and we've news coming in that we'll be interviewing next week of another Kildare male boxer this occasion turning pro. We'll be talking to him during the week, and we'll also be talking to a very senior at this stage who's been out for a while, Gary Cully, who's on the comeback trail. We'll be talking to him in the next week or so as well. Looking forward to all of those. So we.
So yeah, Pat's just nipped out there. So yeah, we're right at the end there. We've had a few gremlins in the system. We've done well to last this far, but yeah, so yeah, that's it. So yeah, busy weekend ahead, and we're looking forward to seeing some of the Kildare teams in action. Yeah, so thanks for listening in. Thanks for watching. If you are watching, you've made it this far, do like, share, and comment. It's great to have any sort of interaction online. I know Tommy's been asking for some questions, and maybe we'll bring that back for next week as well. If you do have any questions, let Tommy know. But for the meanwhile, just let us know how you're enjoying the podcast. But for now, thanks very much for watching and listening.